ultra-Zionist chatter would write it. That's why I clicked on it, because he wrote it in the simplest ways possible. He basically said media only report when Israel bad or something, which is exactly what like ultra-Zionist Israelis write in the chat all the time. It was very, very convincing. Thank you, 34 MKD 50 with the 50 big ones. God damn it. It was no nonsense, all killer, no filler. I have to hand it to him. Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm handing it to him. You should hand yourself a gifted subscription for others or for yourself by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime, by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account if you no longer want to see those ads at the top of the hour. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Elent News says, Reuters, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Monday said that the United States is looking into allegations of human rights abuses by Israel in its operations against Hamas in Gaza. Israel hypocritically describes this the way capitalists describe socialism? Yes. Anytime you ask a capitalist what's wrong with capitalism, they always point out capitalist things and then say it's socialism. It's the same exact hypocrisy that is trapped within the reactionary mindset. When you ask Israelis like what Hamas is doing, it's just everything Israel has done to the Palestinians all the time in perpetuity. And it's good actually when Israel does it.
Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to reject any sanctions on Israel's military after reports that the U.S. plans to cut aid to one unit.
Bro, it's time to cut the teat. Why the is the American government talking about like billions of dollars going to Israel today, which is slated to pass in the Senate as well, okay? When at the same time, one unit, dude, one unit, and Benjamin Netanyahu was like, no, actually no. Dude, there has never been a better time to be an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist. Like, obviously, we know what the real reason is. It's like America's interest in the region, obviously, is the most important part of this. And also, like, the personal ultra-Zionist sensibilities of the likes of Joe Brandon and whatnot in an election year. But, like, there's never been a better time to be an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist, because you're like, look, see? Benjamin Netanyahu is just controlling the American government. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous, dude. Like, what do you mean you're refusing sanctions? Oh God, the amount, the level of cucked we are as the American government to whatever the, not just Israel wants, but just whatever the
domination. Spetsnaz operatives, secure and maintain them. Charlie secure.
Moving. Cancel my last.
Benjamin Netanyahu personally wants is so crazy. He is very close in both attitude and the way he operates, and also with his like obvious corruption and being a far-right dipshit, to Donald Trump. He gets to extend his political career and therefore avoid prison. And he gets to do it in broad daylight using the American government as his cum rag. Okay? Unimaginable stuff. Unimaginable stuff. That he could just literally be like, guess what, dude? I do whatever the fuck I want, and you have to do it. You have to follow through. We need more political courage. This is incredible. Someone needs to put an end to this shit. Okay? It's ridiculous. Because it's not just like, this isn't even just about like, this isn't even about like Israel's right to defend itself or anything. I mean, it obviously never was, but you can't even make that argument any longer. It's just Benjamin Netanyahu using the apartheid regime and his genocidal ambition as his own mechanism for avoiding like any kind of criminal liability whatsoever. It blows my mind. Aid to Israel has heavy bipartisan support. No aid for Israel equals massive bubble. No, there's definitely a lot of support to give aid to Israel because, and even if there wasn't, it wouldn't matter because there's always bipartisanship that can be found when we talk about weapons contracts anyway. I'm just saying, it's like... ridiculous that this is even a thing.
Amid ongoing violence in the occupied West Bank, the U.S. has vowed to respond to apparent human rights violations against Palestinians. 15 children are among the dead after an Israeli airstrike on the city of Rafah in southern Gaza on Sunday, where more than 1 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering. The health ministry in Gaza, which is run by Hamas, says more than 30,000
Hard point. Control the target area. Hard point located.
1,000 people have died since the start of the war in October. As Fergal Keane now reports,
there is the story of everyday death.
Then out. You got no ID, get out.
Well, I told you so. They put together collages, they put together spreadsheets, infographics, dioramas, you name it, they made a version of it to help you catch the transies. Now they're attacking a woman, a cisgender woman, for not looking womanly enough.
Our girl Meg Thee Stallion, she may not be biologically female.
They're Satanists. They're reptiles. No, they're trans. Ah! Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I love my light background now, but it makes my frizz look so much more frizzy, girl. Today we're talking about transvestigations, and no, I am not talking about trans people wearing vests. Sorry, I couldn't think of a joke. I'm sorry, I had to put one in, I couldn't think of one. I am talking about the witch hunt for trans people that has been going on over on Facebook, on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, literally everywhere, that has people posting pictures of celebrities, public figures, pretty much anybody they can get their grubby little hands on, and hosting discussion about whether or not that person is in fact a trans. Dun dun dun. This is actually something that has been happening for a very, very long time in the form of like, are you a man? Comments on YouTube and stuff like that, which I could deal with. That was fine with me, like, no, it wasn't. But it has now escalated into something much more serious.
This is a girl and you guys are harassing her because she's a dyke. And I'm a female.
Don't be fooled. Although claiming to keep the public safer through means of exposing the deceptions that are trans people, transvestigators are actually causing significant harm to everybody, including cis men and cis women, by contributing to this culture of non-scientific gender policing with the goal of framing trans and gender non-conforming people as these predatory masterminds. And while yes, trans witch hunts have been going on for a very long time, anti-trans laws and social media platforms' lack of responsibility have made these efforts more normalized and a lot more threatening. I'm Samantha Lux. I post new videos every single week here on my channel, so if you guys are not yet subscribed and you'd like to be, go ahead, I'll wait for you, go ahead. Are you done? Thank you very much. I also have an Instagram and a TikTok and a Twitter, all those different places, as well as a Twitch that I stream video games on every single week. So definitely follow me on all those little links down below. And yeah, with no further ado, let's talk about transvestigations, shall we? I feel like a little CBS or like a little Dateline. 60 seconds, here I come. So what exactly is a transvestigation? So traditionally, a transvestigation has been, exactly as it sounds, an investigation into whether somebody is actually a trans. And what I mean by that is if somebody has transitioned in the past and is now living without disclosing their trans identity or doing what the dolls refer to as living in stealth. This has been a thing for so long, they don't even know, don't tell them. These investigations, if you want to say that, started as a few YouTube videos here and there, maybe some like weird, random internet forum posts, and they focused on specific individuals, right? But eventually these individual videos started getting more and more popular and like just started sprouting up everywhere and eventually became a full-blown conspiracy theory that claimed that every single celebrity out there was actually a trans. They're all actually transgender Illuminati members. It's crazy. They claim that everybody from Madonna to Lady Gaga to Justin Bieber all were secretly transgender and hiding it for fame and fortune.
Essentially, they flip God's creation on its head. Men are women, women are men. Evil is good, good is evil. And that's just how they operate. They sing backwards. They have backtracks on their songs. They think in reverse. They speak in reverse. They cast spells in reverse. Like, it's a whole other world.
And these theories were not just like, oh, maybe they're trans. That'd be so slay. You know what I mean? I do that because it's like slay. They weren't like that. It became seriously like a witch hunt. Subjects of these investigations were accused of being in the Illuminati and similarly to today, accused of being deceptive and perverse.
It's like it's a whole other world in a satanic minefield that we're navigating through right now.
This trans witch hunt has gotten so large that even a president is in on it. He literally released guidelines informing people how to detect if somebody might potentially be a trans person so that they could refuse them entry into homeless shelters. It's very reminiscent and honestly, like, it has a lot of overlap with the people that think that the government's made up of all like reptiles and stuff. They're all evil reptiles and they're trans too. Adding in the trans aspect was just another way for them to make government officials seem evil and to bestow distrust in them, right? Because duh, Nothing says dark and corrupt and mysterious like the dolls. No, but if you think about it, it does make sense because for a long time in media, trans people were consistently portrayed as like these deluded villains, you know, who would dress up in women's clothing for like some weird fetish reasons or like some weird trauma reasons. And like I think of the character from Silence of the Lambs. What's the guy's name? But I think of that, you know? It's like the perfect additional little scare tactic to throw in. They're Satanists. They're reptiles. No, they're trans. Ah! Sorry. Thankfully, like I said at the time, these transvestigations did not go very mainstream because they were like on like 4chan and like some weird ass, random ass internet forums. Some of them were on YouTube, but again, they were pretty obscure. And thank God they were, because a lot of these transvestigations had a very like explicit, or maybe I guess they weren't that explicit, but to me, it was pretty obvious that the goal of these transvestigations was to direct harm towards these individuals, whether it be the form of online bullying, online harassment, or violence in real life, you know, of physical assault. Luckily for Madonna and Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber, these massive celebrities, they were protected, right? Because they're famous, they have a lot of money, they can hire security, they can, you know, protect themselves, which is great. Like the most it really amounted to for them was like cringy interview questions like, do you have a dick?
There was that rumor that you had a male appendage, that you were a hermaphrodite, and you joked about it on the stage last night.
Maybe I do.
Inappropriate questions, of course, but you know, not a hate crime. Well, I guess maybe it is. But regardless of that, regardless of them saying that these celebrities were part of the Illuminati, I really don't think that these transvestigations were the worst. You know, I think that they're not exactly what I would consider to be the most dangerous or toxic form of transvestigations, at least anymore. They've upgraded, they've evolved. So I don't really want to focus too much on the whole conspiracy theory aspect of transvestigations because, I mean, it's a conspiracy theory, it's a little bit wild. But I do think it's important to mention because it was very impactful in laying some groundwork for these upcoming transvestigations. Like these guys, or ladies, I don't know, TERFs maybe, did their effing research, right? They put together collages, they put together spreadsheets, infographics, dioramas, you name it, they made a version of it to help you catch the transies. They put all these different materials together, all these different videos together to give you advice on how to clock a transy, on how to figure out if somebody is actually a man in disguise. Yeah. Allow me to enlighten you. You're welcome. They made comments about like your index fingers. Have you guys ever heard of like, they say that cis women have like a shorter ring finger than pointer finger? I don't know, but mine's shorter. Mine's shorter. Does that mean I'm a real girl? They made comments on the pelvic tilt difference between male and females. They made comments on the difference in shoulder width of male and female individuals. They made comments on hip width, on skull size, on skull shape, comments even on eye shape and eye position related to your nose. They pulled out all their old anatomy books and got that shit down. They got it down on paper. They created a scientifically based guidebook on how to catch transies, on how to figure out if somebody was born male or female. The problem is, none of the characteristics that they named were perfectly dimorphic, meaning there was always a range of male characteristics, a range of female characteristics, and an overlap of those ranges. They forgot about the dang overlap, and that really was their downfall. You can't forget the overlap. They started claiming that every single person out there was trans. They started claiming Lindsay Lohan was trans, Beyonce is trans, Meg Thee Stallion. I even heard recently people trying to say that she's trans.
Our girl Meg Thee Stallion, Jaguar Wright, says that she may not be biologically female and has been lying this whole time and maybe even changed the childhood picture. Did y'all not see that?
All because they were failing these arbitrary metrics, right? Who's gonna tell them that if all the cis people are failing your Are You Trans test, maybe your test isn't good? Clearly, there's an issue with how you're determining who's male and who's female. They said all these celebrities, their hips aren't giant and voluptuous and curvaceous. They must be men.
We look at actual hardcore anatomical differences between men and women. We don't look at secondary stuff. We look more towards the hardwired biology. So we're not looking at hair, makeup, clothing. We're looking at actual framework of a person, the skeleton, how the musculature is naturally. Okay, so I just want to get that out of the way first.
So a couple things to recognize here. We have the broad shoulders, the narrow hips. Look at the neck, the way the neck is on Madonna, and the thyroid cartilage is very much like a man.
No, that's just a normal body. That's just a body. That's just a woman, girl. Honestly, it is very indicative of how a lot of transphobia can just be boiled down to sexism. Anyone who didn't fit their perception of what a woman looked like, including wide hips, narrow shoulders, a tiny rib cage, little tiny hands, etc., 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 were deemed not womanly enough and therefore a trans. Like, let's really think about this. What is the more likely scenario? That these celebrities are all actually transgender and hiding it, or maybe that's just what women look like outside of your weird porn-sick warped brain. Ever think of that? Not that incels behind these transvestigation communities would know what a woman really looked like in real life. But like I said, there's another type of transvestigation that I would really like to talk about a little bit. With the explosion of social media platforms, especially social media platforms like X that have little to no safeguarding against anti-trans hate, transvestigations have taken another shape. They have officially escaped the obscure online platforms and made it mainstream, baby. And because of that, they are becoming more and more common and more pervasive. Transvestigators are feeling emboldened by anti-trans laws that affirm their fears about trans people and taking matters into their own hands. This looks like attacking everyday people in the bathroom for being what they consider a trans, even calling the police, physically assaulting them, having them removed for wanting to pee. But the gag is, they don't even know what a trans person actually looks like. They don't even know who we are. They're attacking cis people because of these crazy non-scientific metrics that can't actually determine whether or not somebody's actually trans because they don't work.
So Ivy, this is a girl, and you guys are harassing her because she's a dyke.
And I'm the female.
This is a girl.
Do I have to tell you again? You have ID? No, I do not. Get out. Get out. Get out. You got no ID, get out.
This is so sad.
Out.
Oh, and she's a girl and you're yelling in her face. That's crazy. Don't worry, I got you. I got you.
Put on me again, bro.
Wow, look what you... Oh, okay.
Get out, sir. Get out.
Man, that is a girl. That is a girl.
Let's go. Time to go. You have no ID? Let's go. Time to go, sir.
So you're saying you have to have an ID to go to the bathroom?
Get out of my face. You can all leave if you want to.
We're all leaving. We are all leaving. Like I said, this is a girl. Don't put your hands on a girl.
Let's go. Come on. No ID.
Well, I told you so. Trans people have been saying this forever, right? That these bathroom bills against trans people, they're not gonna work. They don't work. Not only are they unnecessary, but they just don't work. Like, you can't enforce the law like that. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, wow, this is crazy, this is wild, and it is, but I have to say that, like, trans people have been warning you. This is what we knew would happen, right? This is the only logical conclusion of consistently telling people all the time that trans people are predators and that you need to watch out for them in your bathrooms and that having them in your bathroom makes you unsafe, blah, 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 blah. First of all, it's not true, right? There's no evidence out there that shows that trans people being allowed to use the bathroom that corresponds with their gender identity. There's no evidence that shows that that perpetuates any harm against cis people at all. None. There's already laws in place to take care of predators in the bathroom. There's already laws in place to take care of people who are pretending to be trans and going into the bathroom to assault women. Like, that's already in place. We don't need more laws banning all trans people from the bathroom. That is unnecessary and does nothing but target trans people, right? This is a perfect example of how transphobia affects cis people as well. Now they're attacking a lesbian for not looking womanly enough. Sound familiar? Now they're attacking a woman, a cisgender woman, for not looking womanly enough and kicking her out of the bathroom for it, right? There's a lot to consider. You know, there's a lot to consider when it comes to understanding the harm that these transvestigation communities are causing. Firstly, enforcing stereotypes on people harms everybody, right? Sexism 101. Women come in all shapes and sizes and should be supported for, you know, however they are. Some have broader shoulders or more muscles than other people. That doesn't make them less of a woman, you freaks. Just like how some cis people are dumber than trans people. Like, so yeah, there's the abundant harm that it causes trans people, obviously. It also perpetuates the idea that transness is in itself deceptive. The only way that I could possibly be deceptive about who I am is if I knew that I was trans and didn't live authentically, right? That would be lying about who I am. What you see is what you get with me, babe. It also encourages people to out trans people, which it's just obviously dangerous. It puts their immediate safety in danger physically. I was actually interviewed for a Teen Vogue piece about transvestigations as well, which will be linked down below if you're interested. But something I pointed out there as well is how these transvestigation communities impact our safety, right? Or our perception of safety, and how that extends past my own personal safety. So I said, had I first seen this type of content when I was first discovering my trans identity, or when I first came out as trans, it would have been honestly very scary. Knowing that there are people out there who would try to out me with the goal of directing harm my way would create a lot of anxiety and fear about life as a trans woman, more than I already had. not simply because of the fear that my trans identity would be revealed, but what that would mean in terms of my safety. Is somebody going to think that I'm trying to deceive them simply because of who I am and attack me for it? Are my friends going to be attacked alongside me due to our hand sizes being the same size? I remember writing this part and it did get me a little bit emotional because I can't imagine the guilt that I would feel if I was with one of my cisgender friends and they were harmed because that person knew that I was trans and assumed that my friends must be trans as well because, you know, literally our hand sizes are the same. And that's what these transvestigation communities rely on. They rely on these arbitrary metrics like hand size to determine who is and who isn't trans. So now I have to worry about everybody around me as well. This does not just affect trans people. Like we saw in the original forms of transvestigations, cis people were the targets, right? Even though trans people were the intended target, cis people were the target. Even though trans people were the intended target, this resulted in cis women being called trans and being punished for it. Let's just be perfectly clear. Nobody should be punished or attacked for being trans, obviously, but the irony that cis people are actually the ones being hurt by these transvestigation communities is amazing. So I personally see a few solutions that could help this. If you guys have any more solutions that you can think of, definitely write them in the comment section. First of all, we got to be done with the anti-trans laws. We got to be done. I know it's so much easier said than done, but they're unnecessary. They're clearly ineffective at keeping only trans people out, and they perpetuate irrational fear about trans people. You're scaring the children. Stop. And secondly, and honestly, maybe more importantly, social media platforms need to take accountability for this. They need to take accountability for the anti-trans content that is shared on their platforms. Places like Meta have anti-discrimination policies, they have anti-transphobia policies, but they're not following through. They're not enforcing them against these large accounts because it makes them money, or for whatever reason, allegedly. In 2023, GLAAD, in combination with 250 celebrities, called out Meta for allowing anti-trans content on its platform, content that claimed that trans identities are rooted in Satanism, that were sexual predators, and even terrorists. All of that was allowed on Meta's platform, all of which are against Meta's community guidelines, but none of which have been removed. Social media platforms are responsible for the content that is allowed to thrive on their platforms. They are responsible for allowing these hateful, dehumanizing pieces of content to thrive, to live on their platform, making them money and getting them clicks. Trans lives and trans safety are not marketing tools and should not be ignored in order to maintain the cash flow. Media empires like Matt Walsh and libs of TikTok rely on their misinformed hatred to make money. And as long as they're allowed on these platforms, they will continue to monetize our suffering and contribute to, well, this. But okay, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, like I said, I post new videos every single week, so make sure to subscribe and go watch another one. And yeah, other than that, I think I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Oh, we're ready for this one. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? I don't know. Yes, I think we have to be. Hi Spuds, it's Jamie. Welcome back to another video. First video on channel. I don't know, but welcome either way. I'm very sorry for that intro. I don't know where that came from. But today we are looking at transphobic TikToks. The TikToks that are transphobic. There's no real other way to say it. It's just people who post little short videos of themselves sounding very silly and being very mean about a group of people that do not affect their lives, and I have no idea why they're doing it. So I'm here today to watch those TikToks, obviously, and then call out what's wrong with them and why they're transphobic and why people shouldn't be saying that. I mean, they can say it, but it's gonna get called out and it's transphobic. So yeah, let's have a look at some of these together, and I hope you're gonna enjoy this video as much as you can enjoy a video about transphobic TikToks. Woohoo! POV is 2023 and you don't vape, you're straight, and you don't have gender identity issues. Hi, how hilarious.
This person just came into the bar and said, hey, what are your pronouns? You kind of look like a they, them. And I hated that they were right.
What do you want? What do you want? Say wrong pronoun bad. Say correct pronoun bad. What? What do you want? You come up.
I think it was a joke. I took that from the person who was in the original video as a joke. I don't understand why it's been taken so seriously.
Hey, we're all in the same boat. Second lady, I mean, I feel you. It's like, wait, so you got what you wanted, but you were mad about it. What do you want?
I'm pretty sure they weren't genuinely mad about it, and also recognizing the fact that if there was a seriousness to it, what I would interpret that as being is a acknowledgement of like, oh, I'm really like, as a person in this situation, I'm very obviously LGBTQ plus in some way. But also, I still go back to the point of that came across as a joke to me. That's like and I hate that. It's not actually like I hate that, how dare they? They weren't telling anybody off. It felt very lighthearted to me, and then people have just taken it way too seriously.
Y'all know J.K. Rowling is a transphobe, right?
No.
I see so many people on here still supporting Harry Potter.
Imagine just confidently sitting there, pulling that face and going, no, J.K. Rowling's not transphobic. On what basis? Please do show me things that she has said that are in any way trans supportive and not transphobic. And honestly, at this point, anybody who willfully just says,
J.K. Rowling is not transphobic,
I can think there is only one reason for that, and that is because you are also transphobic. But I do think if you can sit there and legit say that tweeting to like 14 million people that trans women aren't women is not transphobic, then you clearly have some transphobic views going on yourself as well, because trans women are women. And just there is something about people who are just like contorting their faces to be like, I am trying to look as confused and horrified as possible right now. Interesting choice.
Like, Harry Potter, yay! And I'm like, you realize that the author is a transphobe. Like, she actively says the most horrendous, horrifying, disgusting things about trans people, specifically trans women. How do you still support it? How do you still perform that music? How do you still read those books? How do you still watch this shit? How do you still talk about Harry Potter?
Sorry, I paused it mid-eye roll. I'm struggling to focus on what the person he's reacting to is saying, because I'm just looking at his facial expressions. And I'm like, if there is a way to be patronizing by just using your eyebrows, this guy is doing it. I'm very interested to see if he's going to talk at some point to share why he thinks that she's not transphobic.
You know that she actively is doing things to hurt the LGBTQ community. I love those things. I love the whole franchise. But I can't support it because it hurts my siblings. I can't. How do you do this? How do you do that? Do you just not know? Are you just willfully ignorant? Are you trying to say, like, separate the artist from the art? What?
I am so tired.
Me too.
You notice how when they make these little videos, they never actually mention anything J.K. Rowling has had to say about any of this?
It's really not difficult to find, but if this person is interested, here's an entire video I literally just made breaking down not even all of what she said that is actively transphobic and explaining why it's transphobic. In a short, it's very difficult to go through exactly what she's done because it's a lot.
That's because her position on trans issues is pretty centrist. It's pretty moderate. She fully respects the rights and autonomy of transgender adults.
The last time she said something like that I've seen was like 4 years ago, and she's actively donated to protest causes that go against the rights of trans adults. So
they never cite her actual statements. She's not the witch these folks have made her out to be. Not at all. But even if she was, like this dude hints at the end, you should be able to separate the art from the artist.
Not necessarily, because supporting the art therefore supports the artist, and actually being involved in something that is created by and has somebody so heavily involved with who has caused harm is a very difficult thing to do. I can't look at Harry Potter stuff in the same way that I used to, because I'm just like, oh, J.K. Rowling. It just doesn't sit right with me. I don't judge people who can privately enjoy it, but I'm not interested in interacting or following people who have a platform and actively share. Even if they will say, I know J.K. Rowling's transphobic, but here's me going to Harry Potter World, I'm not there for that. And I think people who sit there and are like, show me the evidence. It's like, the evidence is out there. Just Google it. Like, if you're asking for people to provide that to you, that means that you've not even tried to look into it yourself, right? So how can you sit there and so confidently say that she isn't transphobic and she hasn't done these things when you're requesting proof that she has? So that means you've not looked into it, because honestly, a simple Google search of like J.K. Rowling trans views will tell you everything you need to know. And there's very many videos out there that break it down. How can you expect every single person who makes a short video to break it down? Oh, for people to sit there and like with their whole chest go,
J.K. Rowling's not transphobic.
Either you are transphobic or you've just literally not read anything that she's said for the past 4 or 5 years.
How many genders are there? 2.
And they are?
Male, female.
But what about someone's right to tell you what their gender is?
No problem at all.
I really didn't want to see Katie Hopkins today.
You're going to tell me what your gender is, but in the world is less fucked world, I don't have to believe it. But I'm thrilled for you. Don't require me to think what you think.
Firstly, there are more than 2 genders, and it's not a new concept that there are more than 2 genders. And people who think that it is a new concept are just very blinkered to like Western view of gender over the past couple hundred years. But like even that is so like gender expression flips and flops as well, and people are just so rigid to the time they're living in. And it's just no, if you look across cultures and across time, there have always been trans people, and there have always been people who sit outside the binary of being a man or a woman. There's always been non-binary identities. There are more than 2 genders. That's it. So she was basically saying, you can tell me what your gender is, thrilled for you, wonderful, but I don't have to believe it. No, you don't have to think how other people think, because I don't think how she thinks. I would not choose to be close to, be friends with, interact with people who I know in their head don't respect who I am. But the bare minimum is, sure, if you don't want to change your opinion and you don't want to see trans people for who they really are, you don't have to. But you are an asshole if you then discriminate against a trans person. So honestly, if you use the correct name for me and you gender me correctly and you don't use slurs, fine. I don't care what your personal opinion is. And if your personal opinion doesn't align with the facts of the world, and that is that trans people are their genders, then I personally just won't choose to interact with you as long as there's a basic level of respect there. And I don't know. From what I've seen in the past, I would question as to whether there would be outward respect going on. But from that video, as long as there was like no misgendering, then I'm not here to try and convince you to change your mind or to change the way you think. That's something that you need to be open to yourself before it could even try and happen. Just don't be a dick. You don't have to understand things. You don't have to be fully on board with it. You don't have to see the world the same way as other people to be respectful.
Can men get pregnant?
Depends. I know.
What does it depend on?
I know trans men that can get pregnant.
That means it's a woman.
Hold on. Did she just say that means it's a woman? That means it's a woman. Just referring to trans men as it. Wow. And women. Like double whammy of bad. It's just a way of seeing the world. It's a recognition that as we learn more about the world, then sometimes what we thought was truth changes. And it is accepting that it's an old belief to think that being able to have a baby means woman and having a penis means man. That's very rigid. It doesn't take into consideration intersex people, and it's not in line with the knowledge that we have both as a society and scientifically.
Only one sex can get
That's a
pregnant.
circular argument. That's
It's not a
begging the
circular
question.
argument. It's proving my thing. There is a truth, a concrete truth. You have to be born with a uterus to have a baby. Only women can get pregnant. The fact that we've arrived in a society
Right, that's the part I'm disagreeing with. That's the part I'm disagreeing with.
And the way she's saying it, it's kind of basing womanhood entirely on being able to get pregnant. So like, what if you were born without a uterus but XX chromosomes and identify and live as a woman? What if you have your uterus removed? What if you never have a child? What if you can't have a child for whatever reason? Does that detract from womanness as well? Like,
that's the part I'm disagreeing
There's
with.
nothing to disagree with it. These are facts. So you can say that this person who is pregnant identifies as a man. That person was born a woman. I can tell you that every single time because only women can have sex. Because
wait, only women can have sex? What?
concrete truths about life.
Have babies.
Can have babies. Pardon.
Oh, yeah, can have babies. Okay.
That is a hard truth about life. You cannot make that go away because you want to call a man, somebody who has a beard and dresses like a dude, a woman. Only if it's pregnant, I can tell you exactly what it is. It's a woman.
The way she was speaking was so muddled and so desperate in the way her arguments sounded, and just entirely wrong. Womanhood and being a woman is not based on somebody's reproductive abilities or what internal organs they have. And there was absolutely no space there for trans men who have had hysterectomies. Where do they sit? And what about intersex people who have neither testes nor a uterus or ovaries, or have both? It's such a narrow viewpoint, a complete lack of acknowledgement that where we're at with understanding of how humans work is that our bodies and our reproductive capabilities do not dictate who we are as people or our identities. Trans is an adjective. So trans men are men who are trans. It's as simple as being trans does not detract from the fact that we are men. For transphobes to make sure that they absolutely identify away trans people's identities and try and justify the fact that, oh,
Trans people aren't really their gender.
what they're actually also doing is greatly reducing everybody down to parts and reproductive capabilities, and that's not good for anyone. That's something that feminism has been trying to move away from for so long and make sure that women are seen as more than reproductive capabilities and body parts. There is zero questions of gender. He was born a boy, he is a boy, and will stay that way. I have seen this. This feels like a trend. I don't know why it's coming up on my For You page, but I keep getting these ones that are like, oh, controversial ways that I'm raising my child, and there are multiple of them. And I don't think they're all a joke. People are like,
my child is the gender they were born and nothing will change that. Or like,
there are zero questions of gender. He was born this, so he will always remain that.
I'm like, that's a baby you're talking. You don't know who that baby is. Like, it's just a bizarre thing to already be concerned about. It's like one step further that if your child came out as LGBTQ+ and you were like, oh, whoa, not comfortable with this, but you're like preemptively going, I'm definitely going to be uncomfortable with this. You're already thinking about it, and I do feel bad for those kids if they were trans. Because, oh dear, I hope the parents could have like a growth in opinion.
The mission is complete. Good work. And I politely asked him, like, hey, I would prefer to be called a woman. I find the term cisgender to be disrespectful to who I actually am as a biological woman.
Again, it is just an adjective. I feel like people who are uncomfortable with it, they don't understand the intention behind it and what it actually means. It's not a label that trans people have chosen to put on anybody else. It's not trans people going, yeah, let's call non-trans people cisgender. I mean, we could always go down the route of saying non-trans instead, because why are trans people the only people that should be othered? It creates this big divide. It's othering to trans people to go trans women and trans men and men. It's just relevant for certain contexts to go trans men and cis men. All are men, but there's an adjective separating, you know, like old men and young men. And to be offended by an adjective that is objectively, factually correct is like, you know, facts don't care about your feelings. It's not a slur. It's not offensive. It's not something that trans people have made up. It is a legitimate term. It's been used in things like chemistry for a really long time. Cisgender, cis as a prefix just means on the same side of. So cisgender is just a term to mean that your gender is the same as the one you were assigned at birth. I wonder what else was said though. Personally, if somebody said, I don't like the term cisgender, that wouldn't cause me to go, you're a transphobic bigot. But if it came along with like actual transphobic stuff, then I would question it. I've not met somebody, there could be people out there, I'm just saying in my personal experience, every single person I've come across online who's left comments or spoken to me or whatever, who has not liked the term cisgender, it's also come along with transphobic viewpoints, and it's coming from a place of transphobia. And by referring to somebody with the wrong pronouns, you're purposefully doing something incorrect. You are referring to them in a wrong way. Referring to somebody who is not trans as cisgender is factually correct. If you are not trans, you are cis. That is the only two ways about it. And if people do not like having a specific term, honestly, I'm totally chill to be like, all right, trans and non-trans, sure.
More of the truth, click follow or subscribe.
What did that guy add? Why was he there? Why was it not just the original video? I'm so confused. Is it a trend where people just post videos and sit and put facial expressions at them and don't actually say anything? Like, what was your opinion? I assume you're agreeing with her. I can see why people who don't understand the term or the use or the meaning and all of this stuff would feel like,
why are you calling this? I don't understand it.
But it is honestly rooted in a discomfort towards trans people because it's not wanting to be put on the same level as trans people. It's not not wanting to have a label in the way that you see trans as being a label. It's wanting to make sure that you are seen as the real type of your gender because you don't view trans people that way. I think a deep discomfort in accepting the use of the word cisgender is rooted in transphobia, and to compare the use of cisgender to misgendering somebody is very, very different.
This might actually be Dylan Mulvaney's
Oh, do I want to watch another video from this guy?
worst take of all time. Watch.
Like the articles written about me using he pronouns and calling me a man over and over again. And I feel like that should be illegal. I don't know. That's just bad journalism.
It's disrespectful. You're misgendering somebody. It's hateful towards trans people. It's discriminatory. I'm pretty sure, did a law not just literally pass the other day in Scotland that made misgendering a crime? It says online misgendering could be investigated in Scotland under new hate crime law. As well, to be there like, oh, yeah, no, it's ridiculous to think that this form of discrimination should be illegal. Like, how do you think it feels to see so much hate? Like, Dylan gets so much hate anyway, and then to see so many articles referring to her as a man, that's horrible. That's like not appropriate or respectful treatment of somebody. I think it's fair for her to get frustrated and to be like, why is this even allowed? And then this guy's like,
worst take the Dylan's ever had.
So a lot of Dylan's content is cringe, but I try not to hate on Dylan too much.
try not to hate on Dylan too much. I hate on Dylan just the right amount.
But this one I have to speak out against because it's so dangerous and antithetical to the First Amendment. Newsflash, Dylan, a free press has the right to misgender you or call you by a different name or say whatever they want about you.
Or say whatever they want about you. I think what people often forget about free speech is that it does not mean free of consequence. You can say whatever you want. Someone's not literally putting a gag on your mouth or taking away your computer from like writing an article, but you saying certain things will come with certain consequences. And that's not taking away free speech, but that's just saying, hey, if you say things that go into the realm of discrimination and hate, then there will be consequences to that.
And if you want your friendly press to have the right to refer to you by your preferred pronouns and write good things about you, you've got to support both. Also, somebody as controversial as Dylan Mulvaney should understand the value in free speech because a lot of people find Dylan's content deeply offensive and objectionable. If offensive stuff is going to be censored, newsflash, Dylan, that might mean you.
And you think that Dylan isn't receiving significantly more backlash for just being herself and speaking about trans topics than these articles and these journalists are for literally misgendering her and discriminating against her as a transgender woman. There's a difference between saying something that offends people based on opinion and then there's saying something that is, one, factually incorrect and two, discrimination.
I get being mad about articles you don't like, but don't support censorship.
Yes, I sighed. It's tiring. This person's views are tiring.
My name is Max. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a
Hey Max, my name is Austin. I am that 40-year-old detransitioner that you say you'll never be.
It would have been nice to see more of the original video, but sure.
And I want to say that I also thought when I was your age that I would never ever detransition either, that I 100% knew who I was then, there, and I would always be unfalteringly unchangeable. You know, I really believed that.
There is a 1% regret rate. There are clearly some people that transition and it's not the right thing for them to do, and there would have likely been a point in time where they felt like it was the right thing for them to do, but it doesn't mean that it is the wrong thing for everybody. I'm assuming this video has been made in response because the original says PSA stop listening to the detrans movement. I haven't seen the original videos, so it's kind of difficult. From my perspective as a trans man, I'd say like when I hear like detrans movement, that's typically referring to detransitioners who then, after they've detransitioned, actively campaign against trans people having access to healthcare and start sharing transphobia and being transphobic themselves because they did the wrong thing for them. But I don't know any trans person who feels negatively or wishes to silence detransitioners who are also respectful of people who transition and it's the right thing for them to do.
I transitioned really young too, but obviously in a much different time and a much different socioeconomic bracket than what I kind of perceive you to have grown up in.
That feels like quite a big assumption. Yeah, sure.
And that's no shade, that's just the real tea. But I think it's really dangerous for you to come on TikTok and say that people shouldn't listen to the detrans movement just because you may or may not disagree with some of our politics, or may not ever see yourself detransitioning. I saw you kind of backpedal a little in your response, Stitch, to Lucy, and it just has me a little bit confused because, truthfully, if gender is a spectrum, why do we have to try to change anything? Why can't you just be you, you know?
That sounds very much like the why can't you just be a masculine woman that gets said a lot to trans men. There's a thing, right? It's like if you detransition and you don't identify as trans, you deserve support in your journey and acceptance, and nobody should be shitting on you for your journey and for what you've experienced, right? At the same time, if you've detransitioned, it's not your place to speak about the trans community in terms of like whether trans people should have access to healthcare and whether transitioning is the right thing to do and all of this stuff. I think they become separate issues of detransitioners and trans people, and there is no rivalry or animosity between the two.
You know, why are you pushing so hard? Not you specifically, but why is like Big Trans pushing so hard to make sure that children are medicalized? Like,
Big Trans. There are a lot of like themes already, and like the minute that this video has been going on, that very much screams like detransitioner who now has a negative viewpoint of transitioning and puts that negative viewpoint of transitioning and projects it onto the whole community. And medicalizing children, it's been discussed so much, the fact that young kids do not have access to permanent medical transition related healthcare and is primarily social. It's even really difficult to access puberty blockers. So this concept that people like
Big Trans are pushing children to be medicalized.
That's a really not nice and very untrue statement to say about the trans community.
you have no idea what 20 plus years of HRT will do to your bladder or your endocrine system or your urethra. I do. It's not what you think.
I've literally never had this. There are the side effects, the changes, the positives, the negatives are outlined when you first start hormones. And urethra? I have the bladder and the urethra. Been on T for over 12 years, never had a single issue with anything that's just been mentioned. Have never heard of anyone else having a single issue. The only time I've heard of people having urethral issues is if they have complications after surgery. But these are typically relatively easy fixes. I'm very confused. And it reminds me of this other video I saw that was a lot more overt in the whole like I've detransitioned, which means nobody should transition, and just made up a lot of stuff that like transitioning just does not do. They were saying that taking hormones changes your whole body structure and makes you in constant pain, and it's like that's not true.
It's not what you think. It has irreversible side effects and damages. Puberty blockers are not reversible. They're absolutely not reversible.
The thing about puberty blockers is they are, and any potential side effects are known and are monitored for, and if any occur, just as with any other medication, then treatment is either stopped or a dosage is changed. People who have this energy about trans kids taking puberty blockers should also have this same energy about any kid that takes puberty blockers for precocious puberty. Puberty blockers have been given to kids to pause puberty for decades, and nobody cared about it until it started benefiting trans kids, and that's when everybody came out of the woodwork going, puberty blockers are bad, but only for trans kids. Make it make sense.
I know that's the big narrative that they are, but everyone I've ever talked to that's on it, your puberty never comes back correctly. You're always stunted.
This feels very much like I'm speaking from my very, very individual point of view, not talking about what's actually in the medical literature and the fact that the gender affirmative approach, including for kids, is the approved approach by like every major medical board. It's not the appropriate thing to do to take an individual experience and be like, okay, I'm going to project this, or like this anecdote I heard of a friend that I'm not even sure if it's completely directly linked. Like, how do we even know? I'm sorry, I'm going to turn to the actual like medical professionals that specialize in this and the scientific papers that have researched these effects, and that's where I'm going to base my opinion on this.
It's not like we're some cabal of detrans people that want to hurt trans people. No, I still feel like I will always be a trans person, so no one is going to take that right from me.
I've never heard of that before. I'm not disrespecting it as a concept. I've just never heard of someone who is a detransitioner saying they still feel like they're trans unless they have purposefully paused their transition because of their current circumstances. The most common reason to detransition is because people are not in a safe environment to be trans. So they go back in the closet, they detransition, and then a majority of them retransition when they're in a better position and a safer environment. That's the only time I've ever heard somebody say, I've detransitioned, but I'm still trans. It's also very difficult to hear this person say like, oh, there's not some like big group of detransitioners, but then describe trans people as like
big trans.
Yeah, like a majority of detransitioners will not be transphobic. And trans people do not have an issue with detransitioners who do not then turn around and be transphobic, because of course, anybody being transphobic, detransitioner or not, trans people are rightfully going to be upset and going to defend themselves and their community.
To speak of that, you know, to speak to my truth and just share like what 20 plus years of trans identity can do to a person.
Has done to you for whatever reason. Maybe it wasn't right for you to transition. I'm not going to speak on the personal circumstances of this person, as they should not be saying, I'm speaking about my experience, but also projecting it onto others. I don't sit here and go, oh, because transitioning was right for me, that means it will be right for everybody. No, I don't sit there and say that. I share my experiences. It's not my place to use my individual experience to tell others how to live their lives or what is right for them. I can provide information. The only time when I would say things as a group is if I'm referring to actual general statistics and evidence-based things that we know about, and then I'm talking about it as actually the science and not saying, oh, well, because I think this or because I've experienced that. And I feel like this person is actually going, oh, well, because I've had a bad experience, then therefore I think everybody is, and I need to share this. And it's like, talk about it, great, but that's your experience. It doesn't give you a right to then say that trans people shouldn't have access to healthcare or call trans people big trans or say they're medicalizing children.
You know, it's not all perfect. It's not all easy peasy. Life gets harder and harder and harder. Now, I think that
for this person,
when you're female to male, maybe your experience will be different from a male to female. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I come from a time when there was so much more internalized and externalized homophobia out in the world, but that's not the case anymore. America has accepted gay people and lesbian people and trans people.
Really though? How many active anti-LGBTQ bills are there in the States right now? The ACLU is tracking 484 anti-LGBTQ bills in the US, nearly 500 across 50 states. There are some states that have 16 plus anti-LGBTQ bills that are currently active as of 2024. They include things like curriculum censorship, other school restrictions, school facility bans, redefinition of sex, school sports bans, other healthcare barriers. So don't stand there and say that America has accepted the LGBTQ plus community. Society-wise, on an individual level, there is a lot more acceptance than there used to be, but there is some very loud and very powerful and very political pushback against LGBTQ plus people, particularly the trans community right now, that I think it's very unfair to stand and say, oh, well, you have acceptance, because it's not there.
Right-wing people don't want to, you know, kill you or cause a genocide. Like, that's absolutely not true.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who was that American politician? What did he say? Oh, here we go. CPAC speaker calls for eradication of transgenderism and somehow claims he's not calling for elimination of transgender people. You say you don't want, well, transgenderism isn't a word, but you say you don't want people to be trans. So he said, for the good of society, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level. Just gonna leave that there.
That's absolutely not true. What we want is to make sure that children are old enough to make informed consent. And you can't do informed consent if you are unable to be informed about lifetime effects.
Does this count for all medical procedures performed on children then? I'm assuming they would also have to stretch that to parents not being able to consent on their behalf. It opens up a lot of like ethical questions. It was a big thing in the UK that opened up the ethical question of what 16, 17-year-olds could consent to medically. And by removing the ability to consent to one thing, it raised questions about their ability to consent to other things that people didn't want to stop. And it's just like within the sphere of medical and like healthcare, it very much feels like there is this one viewpoint and narrative being driven that trans people don't know themselves, and you have to be this very certain age in adulthood to be able to know it. And it always starts with kids, though. That we've seen this in a few places in the States, where it begins with,
hey, under 18s can't transition.
And then suddenly it's like,
actually, under 25s can't transition.
And it just gets older and older until eventually what we're seeing calls for is we just don't want people to transition. It has been shown time and time again, and evidence time and time again, that access to transitioning, both social and medical, does improve the well-being of trans people, and the gender affirmative approach is the accepted approach for trans people. I, of course, feel sympathy when people have gone down a path that is not right for them and they have difficulty with that, but I absolutely do not think it gives them the right to say that it's wrong for everybody. And this very much feels like a projection of, I did something that I don't like and that wasn't right for me, and therefore I don't think people should do it. And it's like, no, let's not go there.
I have a friend who has a trans kid. He's explained that, like, well, my child from a very young age consistently said, I am a girl, and has never contradicted themselves, never changed their mind. And so the humane thing, and the thing that he felt was good to do as a parent, was to, like, embrace that choice on his child's part.
Sure, yes, why not? By professionals and specialists, that's what people are told to do, to embrace how your child wants to express. Why there is a car underneath, I don't know. I'm finding it very distracting.
I shouldn't even phrase it as a choice, like, embrace that identity.
But it is a choice. If you're choosing to add hormones to a child's body, that's a choice. If they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Who do you think is getting hormones? I find it very confusing. I think people are just fully convinced that 5-year-olds are being given hormones after saying for a month that they want them. It's not a choice to be trans, and it's not a choice to need to transition. And people are given the appropriate care, social, medical, at the appropriate time. Also, it's not that trans people need to medically transition to be more of their gender. It's to help something called gender dysphoria and to help trans people feel more comfortable in their bodies. Taking testosterone didn't make me more of a man, but it just reduced my gender dysphoria greatly and meant that I am a happier man.
Because, I'm sorry, can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question. If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl.
What is it with the use of it? If the child thinks it's a girl, I mean, yes, let them be a girl.
Why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body.
He does realize that hormones come out naturally at puberty, right? And that is the age at which a trans child at the earliest would receive hormones, when there would be hormones naturally occurring in their body anyway. So what? Is it just not appropriate for anyone under the age of 18 to go through puberty because we should not be letting things added to their body that chemically changes them?
Oh no, hormones bad for under 18s.
Weird. This has been much longer than the standard TikTok video. Oh my God. There was a lot to go through. That was a lot. And I'm done. I can't do any more. Let me know what you think. Basically, in short, I don't understand transphobia. I don't get why so many people put calling out transphobia and being transphobic on the same level. And they're like,
oh, well, like, we all have a right to free speech. And, like, you know, if you're getting upset over transphobic things being said, then you can't get upset when people get upset over what you're saying.
Hey slurs, it's your fave unlit British cigarette here with another reacts. Today we're watching Audacity, an anti-gay but also kind of anti-straight Christian film that asks the question, will 2 lesbians die in an elevator if I don't tell them they're going to hell? And then answers it. Yes. The answer is yes. And you know what? Everyone is entitled to their opinions. So let's hear my opinion on how a video that's mostly just a character watching interview footage on YouTube has the audacity to call itself a film. If you want to suggest something for me to react to or have a watch party with me for the next video in this series, you can join my Patreon at that tier. Before we drag this film for filth, don't forget to hit subscribe so I know I have value as a person. I mean it. I need validation, hard. So, Audacity is a 2015 film by Ray Comfort that has 1.5 million views on YouTube, which means that almost 0.02% of the people on this planet have said, hey, let's watch Audacity. Because you know what? I hate gays and myself. Audacity starts off with this white girl chilling in her car. I'm assuming this is the titular Audacity, a gorgeous name. When all of a sudden, she's approached by a man that suffocate me, and he attempts to break into her car with his pet rock. But Anyways, we'll get back to Miss Girl and her violent assault later, because we're gonna pivot to what I can only assume is somebody doing stand-up for a group of people who just all came down from the local lobotomy. This is Ben. Ben is bad.
So we're going to change American football to rugby. Helmets are for wimps.
I love seeing what right-wing Christians find funny. Like, you know what really kills in comedy clubs in the mid-2000s? Impressions. Starting off with a man on everyone's mind, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Don't worry about the hammers, you know. I used to drive one, come on. This guy rang me up the other day, he's like, excuse me, Mr. Price. I thought it was my friend doing King Julian. I'm like, oh, the New York Times. I like to move it.
Oh. I found the audacity. Maybe the real audacity is the racism we made along the way.
Thank you, come again. If I offend some of you guys, not my intention, because I want to offend everybody equally, if that's okay.
So I am definitely offended in an SJW way, but also that the writers of this film expected me to believe that all these people were laughing. Like, really? What the fuck is wrong with you, Brenda? She's about to pop a vein because Crocodile in a Fire Dundee over here broke out his Borat voice. I'm gonna write this actress a strongly worded letter about the role she's been taking and the direction her life has been heading. Dear Brenda, I saw the movie. You aren't gonna get away with this. I know what you did. It makes me sick. I'm going to tell. After Ben's set, he meets his tiny little friend Peter backstage.
I'm here for the autograph.
Thank you, man.
Oh.
My short dudes, you don't need a foot of hair to compensate. Just be you and be amazing. Not gonna lie, shorter guys are hotter. I love my little Rumpelstiltskins.
No, seriously, you got some good stuff.
You laugh at anything.
Well, true, but then again, I am just being polite, right?
Well, what do I owe you for that inspiration, Tony Robbins?
No, look, seriously, man.
You could cut the sexual tension in this room with a blink. I'm hungry. Let's go put little baby Ben to bed and we can go to dinner. Now we're at Bella's having a romantic table-lit dinner, and nothing in this scene matters at all. The ladies discuss the clowns from the last scene, saying our boy Petey is a bike delivery guy.
He must like his job then. He's doing bike deliveries, right?
Yep, he's a mailman on wheels.
She reveals that Ben is from Australia.
I also noticed that he's been hanging around the guy that sounds like the crocodile hunter.
Yeah, Ben. He grew up in Australia.
Standing our observant queen. Ben, yeah, he sounds like the crocodile hunter, but he's actually from Australia. Also, fun fact, the sun, super far away, hundreds of miles even. She also reveals he's a comedian.
Ben moonlights as a comedian. He's hilarious. Oh no.
What?
I forgot I left my flat iron plugged in next to my reverse fleshlight. I'm shipping these worm-brained girls, TBH. We're back in the bedroom of the dollhouse Peter lives in, where for some reason, he's watching a news report where they just basically say gay marriage is controversial. They're not actually reporting on anything newsworthy. Nothing has happened.
For some, the legalization of gay marriage is good news, while others find it difficult to grasp.
It's not that hard to grasp. Gay people are just like you. We get married just like you. We fall in love just like you. We stand in the park bushes at 3 a.m. waiting for a man to face until we just like you.
Regardless of what anyone thinks about the issue, gay marriage has become a present-day reality that is spreading across America. Soon, to one degree or another, each of us will have to respond in our own way to this current cultural revolution.
The United States of America is losing the war on gay. Oh, there's a pandemic, all right, but it's not the one Sleepy Joe, Hussein, Obama, Fauci wants you to think it is.
Hi, Peter. Can't believe you're still here. What time's your first delivery?
I'm still trying to wake up.
Oh, Ben's show was last night. No wonder you're tired.
I, too, would be exhausted after 20 minutes of someone just reciting Simpsons lines in bad accents. Peters needs to head out after he realizes he's wearing a watch, but takes a moment to make fun of Audacity for being like too stupid to remember her car needs gas. I'm calling her Audacity now. It's way cuter than whatever her name actually is. What is it? Diana.
How many times have you run out of gas? It's like
Okay.
3 or 4.
No,
It's
shut up.
7?
Shut up.
8-ish.
What are you looking at?
It's the Bible.
It's a little book you might have heard of. The f***ing Bible. You know, the book God wrote with the 10 Commandments. Ever heard of them? God was like, cool kids club rules. Number 1, no other friends but me. Number 2, I'm the leader. Number 3, you can't say anything bad about me. Number 4, everybody has to celebrate my birthday.
Oh. So you're religious?
Well, I'm a Christian.
Since when?
Her reaction to him reading the Bible is legit. I get her. She's valid. She's so grossed out. I stand Audacity, actually.
So you like believe it, like, you know, that it's all true?
Yeah, every word.
So do you believe gay people should be stoned?
He better, because he can't stop me. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm supposed to be working.
But I have a sister who's gay. And you don't know the struggle she's been through from people who are telling her that she's gonna go to hell for what? Loving someone?
Right.
And you have the audacity to tell me that she's going to hell. Go on, say it.
I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Damn, go off Audacity. It scared him right out of there.
So do you believe gay people should be stoned?
I love someone having a flashback to the thing that was 13 seconds ago. The flashback is supposed to like remind us of what the character is thinking, but like we know he just left. We were all there. You think gay people should be stoned?
You two look happy.
Oh, we're getting our application for our marriage license. I feel like there's so much to do. It's gonna be here before you know it. I know.
Not him pulling out his religious tract like it's a cross and he's in an elevator with a vampire. Maybe worry a little less about those gay girls and worry a little more about the fact that you're 95 and look like you're wearing your daddy's suit. Me trying to open a child-safe bag of edibles.
Hello, is there a problem?
Yeah, I have a problem. This place is crawling with D-slurs.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the elevator. The doors won't open. I'm halfway down the floor.
Okay, there's been a malfunction.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm entering a code. Okay, now try pushing the doors open.
All right, the doors are open. Thanks.
Okay, now I want you to wait there until the repair crew arrives. Don't let anyone in.
What? No. I have to go.
You don't understand. Someone could die.
I'll figure something out. I can't wait here, okay?
Luckily, he doesn't just run off because he's a good Christian. Danger! This elevator kills lesbians.
What's this?
Hey, you gotta stay and watch this elevator for me. If anybody gets on this elevator, they're gonna die.
We're getting married. And the florist isn't too far from here. Sounds good. My brother is going to say.
I don't know, but he's gonna have to say something now.
Tegan and Sarah, watch out! Damn, R.I.P. Tegan and Sarah. You would have loved not dying in an elevator. See, kids, the real homophobia isn't fighting against marriage rights. It's a shadowy, sinister man with skinny wrists pushing lesbians down elevator shafts. A tale as old as time, slur as old as rhyme. D-slur down the shaft. Oh, it was all a dream he had. Everything's fine, the lesbians are alive, you're safe in your child-sized bed. It's gonna be okay, Pietro. Okay, so the message so far is, because he did not try to use Christian conversion therapy techniques on these two gay women, they died and took an elevator straight to hell. It's clear that there are a lot of Christians who legitimately believe that if a gay person isn't converted through God, and by extension, Christians, then the Christians who let that happen are failing in their mission on earth. And that any attempt to question Christian conversion practices is an attack on Christianity and Christians' religious freedoms themselves. Like, look at these two headlines on the same topic, Christian conversion therapy. On the left, we get headlines like Supreme Court rejects appeal over bans on conversion therapy for LGBTQ+ children. On the right, we get Supreme Court refuses to hear Christian family counselor's case. For a lot of people on the right, the attack on Christianity is the only headline they're going to read. It's not entirely their fault either. Ad-driven algorithms have made sensationalizing stories and publishing them with clickbait titles the most profitable way to deliver the news.